All right, welcome to Experiment Corner, folks. This week, we're going to do a radical new experiment. We've heard from so many of you that you love the debrief that we always conduct at the end of a conversation, so much that you wish it was a separate episode. So this week, and for the next few weeks, we're going to try releasing our debrief as a teaser or trailer before we drop the full interview. So we're going to do that today. The full interview with our special guest will drop between 24 and 72 hours from now. Hope you enjoy. Give us your feedback.
Hi, my name is Christian Keller. I'm an angel investor, startup advisor, and currently work as a product lead at the Meta Superintelligence Lab. I've been building AI products and models for the past 15 years, and I'm really excited today to talk to you about AI research and building AI products.
Professor Verdelin, what stood out to you out of that conversation?
You know what? I'm always so impressed when you meet people with kind energy who seem just wicked smart and who's just in the middle of all this. And I don't know,
Right.
I get highly energized by having this conversation. And I felt I literally could ask him like 1,000 more questions. So first, I'm just kind of like high on the being able to talk to people like Christian. So that's good.
You're
Uh,
buzzing. I love it. You're
I,
you're glowing, Henrik.
I'm
Are you glowing?
glowing,
Do you have the man crush?
yeah, a little bit, but also just warm and sweaty. Um, I I was intrigued about this thing of, I thought it was very fascinating to hear about this idea of the quality of models we can get out of the type of data we train on. And I think his explanation of text doesn't have the same fidelity as video was intriguing because I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it and didn't quite understand it when last time I heard about it. And now I did. And obviously his other point about hallucination, I found that to be very fascinating. I do think like the whole bias stuff was nice to get just an explanation on because I do think that, as we talked about in the pod before, we will increasingly have to be good of understanding what are some of the limitations or some of the areas where using AI will nudge us in different direction, and then be a little bit more active and kind of like understanding that so that we don't necessarily kind of have the same thing that happened with social media happen to all of us.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I thought this was a good conversation to have on tape and understand. I think those were my two main ones. What about you?
For me, the thing that it's it's a big theme, I think, on the show, but you use AI to use AI, and the more you work with AI, the more you discover ways you aren't, and the more you get, kind of triggers of, "Oh, I never thought to do that." And what I find is, or a hypothesis, I haven't tested that, but I bet those realizations start to increase
Mm,
over time. I don't know about you, but I feel like in the last 2 weeks, I have had more. I can't believe I never thought to ask Andy than ever before. And we've been in the game for a while, right?
I had
And
this morning with something where there's something called Google Scripts, which I don't understand, but I use, and it's basically have access to my Gmail, right, and which is my email platform. And I have now all my newsletters I get in, and then every morning it looks through all the newsletters and it
Mm.
creates like basically a summary. And I've been using that for a while. It's been very useful. It's one of the only newsletters I read every day. It's basically this kind of like now
The meta
it
news.
it was fine, but it wasn't kind of like it was a better idea than I found utility out of it. And so back to the thing about like finding problems, I then took the one from yesterday and went to ChatGPT. I was like, this is good, but it doesn't really do it for me. There seems to, and so I actually used the model to help me figure out what is the problem I'm trying to solve. And then it
Yeah.
went like, here's the different things. It writes in a summary language. You like to have a more active language. And so you should change the tone. You have these frameworks for how you see the world, this A+1 framework. You should basically look at not just the expression of what was in it, but you should see them in the context of some of the way that you compute it, whatever it was, right? And then, so
Yeah.
it has these like 5 different things, which was like description of the problem. It's like, okay, now here's the code, Google script code, redo it and make it so I can just copy paste it back in. And then I put it in a like just completely night and day kind of outcome, right? And so I don't know. I just thought it was like when he was talking, I was like, yeah, I could see how you need the problem. Sometimes you can even use AI to help you find the problem.
No, it's so important. And it makes me think, many times. And by the way, Henrik, you've been doing this a long time and you're a world leader and you're an expert. And it was just yesterday that you thought, and the moment you say it, it's like, oh, that's pretty obvious. And yet you just thought of it
Yeah.
yesterday. And
Yeah.
and the point there is not to belittle, but say there are tons of things like this in people's lives. And if they aren't actively realizing, wait, could AI help? And I think, we can have this moment where maybe we're self-conscious or oh my goodness, forehead slapping. I can't believe I didn't think of that. But I think another step is to be willing to say, have you asked ChatGPT? And that not be an insult, because the honest truth is, for whoever I'm talking to, if I have the idea, chances are they haven't thought of it. And maybe the kindest thing I could do is be like, hey, you got an amazing collaborator who's tireless and creative and willing to spitball with you. Have you invited them in? And I think that that does a few things. I mean, one, if they haven't thought of it, it gives them that, oh, you're so right. And two, especially if you're a manager, if they have thought of it and they're kind of wondering whether they should, it gives them permission. And then three, as a manager, it gives you the ability to now follow up and then incorporate that into your kind of story kit of cool things that your people are doing, right? All of that happens if you ask the simple question, did you try AI? Right? And just like we are having these kind of personal realizations ourselves, I think we can actually facilitate these epiphany moments for others if we're bold enough to ask that simple question.
Amen. I appreciate you for waking up very early in the morning to do this podcast with us in Europe. So thank you so much for that. And I know you have
My pleasure.
a keynote. Can you tell what the keynote is about?
I
Secret.
am, yeah, I'm talking with a group of private equity CXOs about shifting their mindset in how they collaborate with AI, from treating it like a tool to treating it like a teammate, and onboarding AI as a teammate in their companies.
That's awesome. Well, with that, I think it's time to say au revoir.
Au
Salut.
revoir.
Look what.
Bonsoir.
And as always, we very, very much appreciate when people share this with a friend, because that's how we grow our audience and that's how we get better people on it. And so if you enjoy this and you made it all the way here to the end,
Share it.
we will
Rate
share it
it.
with somebody else. And the I was about to say, and the keyword or the code word for this episode is baguette, but then I realized I was so stereotyping that I kind of like made a complete mess of
Can we say croissant? Is that better?
croissant. Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, let's not make it that. Let's make the pass the code word for
PyTorch.
having
Could be
PyTorch. PyTorch.
PyTorch.
PyTorch. PyTorch. And with
Bye
that,
bye.
thank you. Bye.